Hello, everybody. Welcome to, I believe, our fourth installment of this webinar series. My name is Anthony Medaglia, Director of Customer Success here at V1 Sports. Now I'm with our in-house online business consultant, Dan Heaney. Thanks again for joining, Dan. Just a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. The topic today is going to be posting for profit, a smarter social strategy. If you guys can identify the chat function within the platform, love to ask you guys, what's the main social media platform that you are currently using today in regards to online leads and promoting your business? That'll help kind of steer the conversation as we bring some of these things down. But also just another housekeeping item, for those who are interested, we have recently launched, I think about 2 months into our paired program, in which we are funneling highly qualified V1 golf leads to our online coaches. We've been really blowing this out of the water in regards to expectations. I think on average last month we had over 68 selected students and selected leads per coach who was in the program. So if online lessons is something that you've been curious about or want to continue, maybe into the off season or even right now during the summer, feel free to contact me after the webinar. Okay. So without further ado, we'll pass it over to Dan. Thanks.
Awesome. Excited to be back today. As Anthony said, we're talking social media content today, which is a hot and popular topic for a lot of golf coaches, and just further understanding exactly how to structure social media content to be able to get more students online. So that's what we're going to cover in the presentation today. At the end of the presentation, we're going to dive into a few profile audits to help you guys out. And I'm happy to, throughout it as well, pull up some examples, show you guys some different tools that you can use in this process, and really just answer any questions that you might have about social media. This is going to be a complete guide into understanding specifically short form social media content. Short form just being shorter video content or shorter written content on platforms like Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, even LinkedIn and Twitter a little bit. I will tell you about the platforms that I like the best to use for golf coaches. And then in the future, I think definitely on the plan of webinars coming up, we can do one about long form content as well. So things like YouTube, starting a YouTube channel with 3 to 20-minute videos, potentially producing stuff like a podcast, whatever that might be. And this is really focused around short forms. This is attention gathering. These are the platforms you want to go out to and use initially to be able to generate leads and opportunities and conversations for your online coaching business. So with that said, we're going to dive into the content. So the first thing to understand about short form content is why you would want to use it in the first place, and why it's so important to have an ecosystem on these platforms like Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, etc. Because the vast majority of people are visual learners, especially when it comes to a sport like golf. It's really important that we have visual components to what we do. And platforms like Instagram, which is the main one I'm going to talk about today, and it will apply across, they really are visual platforms. They're made to be consumed. A lot of times, 80-90% of people who are consuming on the platform are consuming with the sound off. So visual is going to be extremely important to the concepts we talk about today. You're also practicing the skill of garnering attention and hooking people in. On short form, the first 3 seconds is one of the most important components of the content that you will produce. If you don't get those 3 seconds right, your video is going to underperform. It's just going to happen. Like there's a lot of times I will tell coaches that I work with, 80% of your time should be spent in the pre-production and thinking about what's going to happen in the first 3 to 5 seconds of the video. So if you're not considering that, no matter how valuable or how much quality information is in your video or post, people won't see it unless we optimize for the first 3 seconds. And short form content can really do a lot to increase engagement, increase the opportunity for generating conversations and generating leads. So short form is a very important component to what we're doing in getting clients online. The first thing, we had an entire training on setting up your bio correctly. So for the full comprehensive guide on that, reference a previous webinar. where we dove deep into this, but I do just want to touch on it very quickly, because if you have not optimized your profile on any social media platform that you're putting content on, you're going to be generating views and traffic without somewhere to send them. And really, it becomes a waste of your time, energy, and effort if you have not optimized. So very quickly, touching on this again, because I think it's important. Profile picture, high quality photo of you smiling. You can have golf attire, golf background, but it needs to be shoulders up. It is your face mostly in the picture. It is you smiling. And that's really important for building trust very quickly when people stumble on your account. I would not recommend logos. I would not recommend full body shots, because when it's presented on the phone, it's so small and people can't see that. So it really should be a headshot, professionally done, smiling, happy, in golf attire. You want to have a bio that's crafted to call out the specific person that you're looking to work with. I help target audience achieve specific result in time frame without thing that they don't want to do or common obstacle. And then we want to craft our username to align with what we do. So your name plus golf or something similar. You also want to change the name to be SEO searchable. So search engine optimization on Instagram. People search on all of these social media platforms as much as they do on Google nowadays. So if you have golf coach in your bio or in your name on that platform, you'll be more discoverable through that. And you want to have clear call to actions inside of your bio that promise something of value and is very clear on what the next step is that they could potentially take. No link trees, one singular link in bio, and use emojis strategically through your bio to have it stand out. All things we've talked about before, just quickly covering that again to make sure that you have that set up before we go start producing content that's getting people to our profile. If it's not optimized, it's going to be kind of a waste. So with that being said, the things that we want to think about, I'm going to go kind of big picture concepts and understanding, so you guys know why I'm teaching you the things that I'm teaching you. And then we can get into the tactics, the nitty gritty, the granular details of actually applying this stuff. But if you don't understand the principles and concepts behind it, it's going to be hard to take this information and then go apply it to growing your account and getting more people to follow you and interact. The key things that we want to understand is that there's psychology behind producing content that gets people to engage and that gets us views and that gets us traffic. The big concepts that will work very well on short form platforms are going to be fear and loss aversion, curiosity, creating information gaps, and then desire, positive gains. So a desired state in the future. Some examples very quickly of what those look like. You're destroying your swing if you do this. Stop now. Most golfers have no idea they're making this fatal mistake. These are curiosity. They create urgency. They keep the viewers watching. And this is all geared towards that first 3 seconds I was talking about earlier, that hook. There has to be something powerful done in the first 3 to 5 seconds of the video that entices someone to keep watching. Curiosity-based things. Ever wonder why you hit your irons pure one day and terrible the next? This one weird trick changed my game completely. And people tend to hate not filling in the gaps or completing the story or having an unfinished story around this gap that you've just opened up. Desire stuff, gain 20 plus yards off the tee with this simple tweak, fix your slice in 60 seconds guaranteed, makes viewers visualize the success that they could get if they stick around to watch the video. Now, you might think that some of these seem clickbaity, right? Or intentionally done to give out false information, or you may not like this style of content. The truth is, unless you spend the time to craft the first 3 to 5 seconds of your video using psychology that we understand works on these platforms, no one's going to watch it and ultimately get the value that you'll deliver later in the video. And I'm going to go into in a second here a complete structure for how to do this so that you still feel in alignment with the content that you are producing based on a formula that we know works. So other proven click triggers for golf content. So the 3 that I just went over, but here are some other ways that you can apply triggers in your content to get more people to watch. One is authority-based triggers. An example might be, why do the best ball strikers in the world do all these things in common, right? That's pulling on the authority of the best ball strikers in the world. Everyone now is imagining who they believe to be the best ball strikers in the world, probably Scotty Scheffler right now, and curious now about what those things are. Another example, Tiger Woods hated this drill, but it can be the best drill for you. Obvious here, while we're pulling on, popularity of Tiger Woods and his name. You can use beginner-friendly hooks. If I started golf all over again, here are 3 tips I wish I knew. If you are a higher than a 10 handicap, listen up. So these are calling out very beginner concepts and topics and speaking directly to that type of golfer. We can use suspicion and conflict. Has this backswing tip been wrong this whole time? Right? Very curious about what that might be. Some coaches say keep your head down, but that's ruining your swing. Conspiracy and secrets. Golf fitters don't want you to know about your clubs. What pros do right and what you do wrong. And counterintuitive content. How to hit it farther with a slower swing speed. You don't need lessons to have a low handicap. Thing you'll notice about all of these is this is the first thing that would either appear on screen or be said in the video in the first 3 to 5 seconds. This is the most important piece of this entire training that you can take away. If you want to optimize one thing about the content that you're putting out there, it's going to be optimizing the hooks and spending 80% of your time using these concepts and triggers and psychology to get more people to consume your content and ultimately stick around for the value. It's vitally important that we get this first section of the video or the post correct. And if we don't, again, we're going to miss out on so much opportunity. So the other component of a really well-crafted short form piece of content, and a lot of it's going to be video. So I'll talk a lot about this applied to video, reels and TikTok videos that are under 60 seconds in length. We want to understand that they're all visual platforms, as I mentioned earlier, which means that it's not just what is being said in the video that matters, because you can deliver so much more in a split second using visuals and what is actually happening in the video than you can in saying anything, right? The old adage of, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, a video is probably worth 10,000, right? It will instantly demonstrate or get across, give context, and pull somebody in just by something happening on screen in those first 3 to 5 seconds. And so this is really important to understand when we are creating content as well, that the visual element is as not maybe even more important than the verbal element, or even the value that's being delivered in the piece of content. So with that in consideration, when you're doing drills and demonstration videos, what I see a lot of golf coaches do is they will put up a camera, their phone usually. They'll stand in front of it 15, 20 feet away. They'll make sure kind of everything is in scene, and they'll just start recording and record like they would talk in person, which is typically something like, hey guys, Coach Eric here. I wanted to talk to you a little bit today. You've already lost people. One, there's no motion or movement happening. The first things that came out of your mouth were not the hook, were not valuable. And so people scrolled off of that very quickly. And so if you're going to do demonstration and drill videos like that, we want to be very strategic about what we're doing in those first 3 seconds. And if you're going to talk to the camera, what you need to consider is that we want to input things like fast cuts and B-roll. So B-roll, I'll show you guys some examples of this later because it's hard to describe if you're not in editing and filming and camera. You don't have a history or background on that. But essentially, B-roll clips are any clip that's just giving context to what is happening that is put over, that is inserted in the video to show something that doesn't necessarily have words or sound to that particular video. So it is just strategically inserting things like you could take a professional swing, put it in the first 3 seconds and have a voiceover going while you're demonstrating the concept you're talking about by showing Scotty Scheffler hitting a perfect iron shot, right? As an example. We want to use fast cuts. We want to use additional videos, B-roll footage to pull over. We want to have multiple camera angles where things can switch and move. We want movement in the shot at all times, right? Every 3 to 5 seconds, something should be happening. We want on-screen text and graphics. If we can do some slow-mo stuff, that's amazing. We want dynamic before and after comparisons. And things that you can consider doing. If you're going to shoot a video, you're going to plan out a concept. I would think about different ways that you can film the different components of what you're about to teach. So that could be things like close-ups of grip, ball position, club face. You could think about ways of doing different slow motion replays. You could think about different ways of demonstrating side-by-side content, right? Using something like V1's app to do that. You can have multiple angles, which is huge, face on, down the line, or even 45 degrees in between those positions. You can do results first hook, so you can almost like reverse engineer the video completely, and you can use professional swings to help you out here too. The big thing, there's a lot in this, right? And there's a lot of options and things that you could do. Simplify it as much as possible. And really the one thing that I want you to take away from this slide is that if you want effective short form content, something should be changing in the frame of the video every 3 to 5 seconds. So if it's static for longer than 3 to 5 seconds, if nothing moves, no angle changes, nothing comes on screen, you're probably going to lose people. And it won't be as effective as if you added something there. So you want to think about adding something every 3 to 5 seconds. And that could be as simple as like zooming in and zooming out. That little dynamic movement in the scene will captivate people and help them to stick around. So told you guys I was going to kind of break down how to do this effectively and think about scripting out your videos. If you don't plan your videos at all on social media, it's hard to expect them to be successful because there's more content produced today than there ever has been in the history of the world. And tomorrow we'll break that record again. There are tons of people producing content. We are kind of at war for people's attention on the internet. And to think that we can sort of like not put any time, energy, and effort into creating content and have it be successful, it's a false line of thinking, because you're competing with people that have full teams, video production teams that will produce this content. Now, do you need that level of quality in order to get students online? No. But if you're just haphazardly throwing together these videos, pulling out random clips from in-person lessons, not considering the first 3 to 5 seconds of the video at all, and just throwing them on Instagram and then expecting them to perform well, I think we have some misaligned expectations with our content. So the easiest way I've seen for coaches that have not done a lot of social media content to produce decent quality stuff is to just plan it and to come up with scripts and to spend the majority of your time thinking about what you're about to create. There's a lot of abouts, but thinking through what you're going to create before you actually do it. Some coaches are at the place where they're good enough to just turn on a phone, face it towards them, and create content. I would say the vast majority are not. And even those coaches that do that, they have an editor that takes that thing, cuts it up, chops it down, and adds all this stuff to it to make it snappy for social media. So I think it would improve the performance drastically of your content if you just plan it out ahead of time. And this is a very simple way of doing that, where you actually get to deliver a ton of value inside of your content, but people have the opportunity to see it because it was produced well. So the idea here, we want to think through, what is our hook? What's the first 3 seconds of the video going to look like? The keys here: grab attention immediately, use click triggers, promise a transformation, something like, have you ever wondered how all the best pros get their trail elbow in this position? Now, I just showed on the previous slide. This way I want you to start thinking through it, right? That's the thing that I'm going to talk about and demonstrate. How can I show that in a close-up that would change the perspective on those first 3 seconds to zoom in on the elbow in the right position. These are the things I'm thinking through in pre-production of a social media content if I wanted to perform well. I have to think about a second angle, a way to zoom in, a way to demonstrate that, and other components of this that I might need to film. Then the next 3 to 6 seconds, we're going to very concisely and clearly present the problem. Identify the pain point, show what's going wrong, create relatability. So many people try to force this position, leading to chunk shots. Right now, we're going to get into actually providing the solution. Introduce your method. Keep it simple and build anticipation throughout. Skip a rock or throw a golf ball. Notice how your elbow leads. Right, then we're going to demonstrate the technique and how to potentially practice this with a drill. Show the technique, use multiple angles, and make it visual. Now, with a club, tuck your lead hand under your trail elbow. Right, so this would be a spot in the video where I want to visually demonstrate the thing that I'm talking about. And then lastly, I want to call to action, clear next step, encourage engagement, and build your list potentially with something like comment swing for my free PDF of favorite swing tips. All right, so you'll notice how condensed this script is, right? It says 20 seconds in length. The reality is most coaches trying to reproduce this will go much longer than 20 seconds. But it gives you the idea of how concise and how to the point short form content needs to be to get traction, to get distribution, and to get eyeballs. I think most coaches naturally go the opposite and just talk too much, get off into tangents, start discussing other things that aren't relevant to the video, and very quickly lose people in their short form content. So it's a great way to practice coming up with content. Test this out, script things ahead of time, come up with the shots that you need, and stick to your script. This does not have to be filmed in one take either. We can talk about editing stuff in the Q&A and show you guys some different platforms that you might be able to use. But the key here is most people that shoot content, especially starting out, that do it very well, don't shoot things in one take. And even the majority of the best creators out there, it may look like they're doing it that way. Most of them are not, right? They are delivering they're setting up a camera, they're delivering their hook, they're taking a pause, they're going to read the next section, they're making sure they're in the right position, then they read that line. Then they go to the next section, read it again to make sure they have it, they deliver it. And they just do this again and again, recording that entire thing and then editing it to cut out all the stuff in between, right? That is the most effective way to create the most snappy piece of short form content that will produce the result that you're ultimately looking for. So with that said, now we need to have a strategy behind creating the content, how often we want to post. This is just a very loose and general idea. You can do whatever you want, whatever works best for you, but we want some sort of cadence. We want to know ahead of time, what am I posting today, tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and the weekend. You want an idea ahead of time. If you're waking up in the morning being like, I don't have anything planned today, I have to come up with something, that is typically, in my experience, not the best way to create content. I like for most of my coaches to be about a week ahead. I don't want to be so far ahead that it doesn't seem relevant or, just super like in the moment or passionate or excited about it. But I would definitely get out ahead of it a bit and understand what you're posting on what days and why you're posting that, what format it's going to be, and then when you're ultimately filming these pieces of content. I would recommend batch creation. Oh, did I lose my internet? All right, I think we're back. Anthony, we all good? Just making sure you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, cool. Lost it for a second, but we're back. So I would definitely recommend that you have a plan for content and you batch create content as much as you can. The best way to do this, in my opinion, from what I've seen, is not to do each individual post at one time, but to think about different buckets of content creation. So our brain as human beings it cannot multitask in different types of tasks very well. So it is very hard for our brain to go from creative tasks to like to-do list tasks in a moment's notice. Like the switching cost is very high between those things. So I would highly recommend that you script and plan at a separate time. You shoot and create, get into that creative flow at a specific time. And then you edit, do the post-production, editing and finalizing, writing the captions at a different time. If you segment it out, you'll get so much more done in those time slots than if you try to do post by post everything at a time. It is very hard to write the script, film the video, and then edit back to back to back. That will take longer because when you switch between those different types of work, there's going to be switching cost, and it's going to take a while to get into those different flows and energies. So as much as you can, there's time for pre-production and planning. There's time for actually creating the content, and then there's time for post-production, editing, and then ultimately like posting the thing. All right, so come up with a schedule on your own, plan ahead, fit it into your calendar. Content creation is a part of the job if you want to be an online coach. So we got to plan that into our week, and then as best you can, stick to those deadlines for yourself, and get a week ahead so you don't feel like you're scrambling to produce content every single day. The other big thing that's really important in content creation on short form platforms is that we understand the stages that people are going to go through with us. And we want to produce different types of content for these different stages of awareness and stages in our, if you want to call it a funnel, which is, I think it's just a good, easy description of what this should look like. We want content that ultimately gets people to know who we are, but then we need to get them to wanting to pay us money and become a student of ours. So that's where roughly 3 styles of content we want to create. Top of funnel, which is going to be educational tips. I like to call it, instead of just entertainment, like edutainment, and getting awareness and eyeballs onto you. This is the stuff that's purely designed to get more reach, more views, more people to see our stuff. Then we need middle of funnel content, which is nurturing through showing client transformations, behind the scenes, deeper dives into concepts and our ideas and theories behind how we help people play better golf. That should be roughly 15 to 30% of the content. And then we do need bottom of funnel, which is conversion. These are direct coaching offers, testimonials with offers attached, and having clear calls to actions inside of these content. Examples, we can have soft call to actions and we can have hard call to actions. Soft would be something like, want my top 3 swing drills, comment drills below. Save this for next time you're practicing. DM me swing for the full breakdown. We can have hard calls to action, like I'm accepting 5 new clients this month. DM me coach to learn more. Ready to break 80, apply for coaching below. Who wants to fix their slice this week? So we want calls to action in our content. I like to do them direct call to action, hard call to action at least once a week. And as long as you're producing enough content for that to make sense. And then soft call to action, you can do 1, 2, even 3 times a week, depending on how much content you're putting out there. But it's important to understand this. We want reach, we want to nurture, and we want to convert through our content on social media. Then if we're talking about platforms like Instagram in short form, really everything is leading towards having a conversation with a potential prospect. So we have to understand that that is the goal. That doesn't mean that they're ready to buy from us. And this is the same when V1, like Anthony was saying, gives you a potential lead in a prospect. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're ready to pull out their credit card and pay you. It's important that just means that they've shown the first step of interest, which is just like raising their hand. Like, we're not going to all of a sudden now ask this person to marry us after they just raised their hand. We have to get to know them a bit more and to take them through a conversational process. And then a certain amount of those people we take through that conversational process will get to the point where they take out their credit card and invest. But there's steps in that. And so we don't want to rush that. We want to take them through understanding attention, which is really just like figuring out if they're open to you asking them questions. We want to see how much they are interested by identifying the pain, what's their biggest goal, what's their biggest struggle, and how long they've been dealing with that. Then we want to understand the desire or the solution, and we want to talk about how we've helped others to do the same thing. I've helped golfers just like you at 20 plus yards and drop 5 strokes. Would you like some help achieving XYZ, the thing they told you they wanted to achieve? And then we want to be able to make an offer in that conversational process as well, which is usually not like, hey, buy my stuff. It's usually, hey, let's jump on a quick 15-minute assessment so that I can see if my program's a good fit. And there's a really good line for that, which is to say, would you be open to? Most people don't want to be in opposition or come off that way. So it's very easy to ask, hey, would you be open to doing a quick 15-minute assessment to see if my program would be a good fit and I can help you achieve XYZ? Most people want to be amenable and say yes to that. And there's different ways that people will get in conversations with us, which could be through lead magnets or general inquiries, which these are different conversational processes you can take them on. But the whole idea is social media attracts people and then starts conversations with them, gets them to raise their hand to show interest in the first step. And then we have to nurture that relationship to the point where they want to buy. Because again, we're talking to strangers on the internet to try to take them from, just meeting them for the first time to asking them to marry you. That is a giant gap that you're trying to traverse in one conversation or one interaction. That is very unlikely to work very well. Or the people that say yes to marrying you, they're going to be the crazy ones. You don't want those. So a couple ideas here too. When we get people in conversations and the vast majority will not buy from us right now, even when they become a lead, even when they raise their hand, the vast majority will not buy right now. It's going to take time. We need a follow-up process and sequence. So 24 hours, 48 hours, and then what's the re-engagement look like on a weekly? How do I follow up with these people? I mentor I learned from many years ago. He shared this statistic, which whether it's like 100% accurate all the time, doesn't really matter. It's the idea or the concept that people are going to take time to convert, which is that of all of your leads, 50% of those leads, people that show interest in what you do, 50% of them will never buy from you ever. The other 50% will buy from you at some time. But of those 50%, only 15% will buy in the next 90 days. The other 35% who are going to buy from you at some time will buy sometime between 90 days and 2+ years into the future. So it's really important that we understand that when people follow us on social media, they comment on a post, they engage in the DMs, that doesn't mean that they're going to buy today. And if they don't buy today, that doesn't mean that they're never going to buy. It just means not right now. So we need a follow-up process, which can be content, can be email, can be just DMing them every other week to see how they're doing. Right? So follow-up is going to be key here as well too. If you wanted to use social media to get a quick cash injection, this is just a simple idea framework for you that you can do at any time to test your audience, no matter how big or small that audience is. You can put out an offer on social media, detach from the outcome. Don't make it mean anything that it doesn't mean. But we can come up with a transformative coaching package, which we've talked about before in the past. We can promote it on social media, and we can see if there's anyone in our audience that is willing to have the conversation about potentially working together. So it's as simple as anybody can do this week on social media. Doesn't matter how big your audience is. You say, hey, I'm going to do a 3-month program that's going to be deliver this result for this specific golfer. I'm going to name it this, and I'm going to go promote it on social media and see if anybody is interested. The way that you do that is, one, you can reach out to anybody you've had conversations with in the past and give them a direct invite. But 2, you can do hand raisers on any social media platform to just see if there is interest. And then you can start conversations and track it all the way through. But this could be something like, for the first time, I'm opening up 5 spots for a 2-day swing transformation intensive. Would you like to know more? If you want to gear this towards online, it could be a simple, for the first time, I'm opening up 5 spots to my Break 80 Blueprint program. If you want to learn more, send me this keyword or comment this keyword below. I want to track the responses to this. And I want to just get comfortable with promoting myself on social media and taking people through a conversational process to try to book some calls. The idea from there is really just to try to offer them the call, which I talked about earlier in DMs. But it really is this simple. It's as simple as coming up with a time frame, assigning a price to it, naming that program, promoting it, seeing if you get interest. And not attaching any meaning to the fact that maybe no one responds, because maybe not enough people saw it. And that's totally okay. But it is worth testing your audience in this way, no matter the size. And you can do these once a month and just track them. The big things when it comes to social media we want to understand is, if you're not tracking metrics or looking at them, if you don't have a way of saying this was successful or not successful beyond just views, then we're going to have a hard time improving, right? This would be like a golfer wanting to get better without tracking any data other than score, right? That is one metric, but it doesn't tell the coach much relevant information about what they need to actually improve on. And honestly, I see a lot of golf coaches doing this exact same thing in their business. They don't track any metrics or data. They just have money that I made. And that's the only determiner. Like, I know how many lessons I have booked next week. And that's the only thing that they track in their business. And that's going to make it very hard for you to progress when it comes to online and when it comes to social media growth and performance of social media content. You really need to dive into the metrics. You need to open up Instagram and go into your insights and view insights on posts and see, what was my hook rate? Instagram will tell you first 3 seconds. They literally have a graph that shows you how well your post performed in the first 3 seconds. They will show you watch time and retention rate. They'll obviously show you comments and shares. They'll show you saves. They'll show you how the profile activity from that specific post, right? In stories, they'll show you the completion rates. They'll show you how many people viewed them, how many interacted. If you did a poll, who interacted with that poll. They give you all this data so that you can make better decisions and start to improve your content over time. The things we want to understand from a growth perspective to say, is this going in the right direction? Are we doing the things that we need to do to help us grow our business? Is a follower count going up? Are we getting more reach and impressions month over month? Hashtags less important now, and I'd actually take that one out of this, and then we can understand a little bit about posting times. And typically Instagram has this data readily available for you. If you look at audience insights, they will tell you when is your audience most active. Typically, it is either 9 a.m. Eastern time or 5 p.m. Eastern time, US time zones most relevant to those times. If you're somewhere else in the world, you might have to reconsider, but those are typical times that work the best. And we want to track conversion metrics. Are we starting conversations with new followers? Are we getting people to comment that leads to conversations? Are we getting lead magnet downloads? Are we getting bookings? And when people book, are we actually getting students to sign up? And hopefully that all leads to you understanding what it costs from a time and money perspective to get a client on the internet. Things to consider in testing and improving and getting better at this is hook styles. So those first 3 seconds, trying different hooks. Video lengths, 15 seconds versus 30 versus 60. I will tell you, on short form platforms, typically best performing content is 30 seconds or under. So if you are going for 2 minutes, it's not likely to perform very well, especially from a reach perspective. Text overlays versus voiceover formats, using trending audio versus using original audio. We can test things like our bio, calls to action in our bio, profile picture styles, and potentially user formats. This stuff will be less important than testing the content variables over and over again. When we're looking at potential advanced strategies, one of the key things, and myself and the V1 team were just talking about this before we jumped on live for the webinar, is how do you find good content ideas and how do you do content research? Not enough coaches are spending the time to, again, plan and research ahead of time the content ideas. They're just doing stuff on the fly and expecting that they're going to be good enough for that to perform, which typically it's not, which is why we're not seeing the views and the growth that we want. So research is really important. You can use a tool like Viral Finder, but you don't even have to. Honestly, you find golf instruction accounts that you like and resonate with that are bigger than yours, that do a good job from getting eyeballs on their content. Now, we don't know the entire metrics of their business, so we can't say that this is perfectly successful, but we know one thing: they know how to get views on Instagram. And so we can take that and we can use it as inspiration. We can model off of it and we can see what is already working. And then how do we reproduce that in our own way to follow these viral formats, right? We can even look at golf influencers. And I know a lot of times coaches don't love golf influencers because they have no credentials. They're just good at creating content. So put that aside and start to understand, why does this person with zero credentials, no experience, probably not an actual great coach, why are they getting hundreds of thousands and millions of views and I'm getting 100? So we can take inspiration from that. We can model off of it. We can start to use some of those formats and concepts, and then we can actually deliver real content that helps people through that process. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. Honestly, a lot of times I tell my coaches to start by modeling others who have already been successful producing content on this platform, and then come up with your own version of it. And then from there, we can track if there are like trending songs or something like that we want to use, but these are less important. So don't focus on that. Focus on style, format of the content that performed well. Can I model it for my own? Then we can also start to think about hosting live Q&A sessions to build relationship with our audience, featuring client success stories regularly. That's huge for the nurturing component of getting people to sign up. And then ultimately building an email list from social traffic, because that's vitally important to succeeding long-term. You don't just want to be dependent on social media. You want to pull them off onto a list that you own. And then in any of these subjects or topics, you can repurpose this content across any platform that you like. All of them have short form video at this point. Repurpose to TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube Shorts, even Twitter as video now. So if you're going to produce it once, might as well. Action plan for you out of this. So first things, optimize your profile. Make sure that that's done well. Create 3-pin posts. We've talked about this previously, so go back to that if you need direction. Plan your content ahead of time for the month as far as like ideas conceptually. Okay, next 30 days, I want to post this many times. I want it to be this many reels, this many carousels, this many image posts. I'm going to create every one of those like scripts and ideas the week before. I want this much to be top of funnel, middle of funnel, and call to action, bottom of funnel content. You need that strategy. You need to plan that out. If you're not doing that, why would you expect to be successful on social media? You want to set up a lead magnet and a landing page before we get started so we can collect leads. And again, if you're working with V1 on that, that's amazing because they'll help you set up a landing page that can collect these leads for you. Week 2, we get into the content. Let's try out creating 7 reels using different click triggers that I talked about before. Let's post daily on stories with polls and Q&As so they're interactive, and that will get more reach. And start engaging on the platform. Instagram wants you to be, in any social media platform, this is the case, they want you to be an active participant on the platform. So if you're just posting, throwing stuff up there, and then disappearing, you don't engage with anybody, you don't answer comments, you don't post stories, you don't reply back to people, you don't like other people's stuff, that hurts your account and success. Start to build an email list by getting comments and getting people's emails through a landing page. That's the link in the bio. You want to start to think about using now social media for lead generation, soft CTAs twice a week, hard CTA once a week, follow up with all DM leads. You want to track the metrics and start to optimize. And then from there, really focus on now 3 weeks in, we have data, we have a good setup and foundation. We can look to try to grow this, optimize it, scale it from here. Scale is relative to where you're at. That may be going from 10,000 views to 20,000 views next month. Not one singular post, but as your account overall. Maybe it's 100,000 views total. We're going to look to take it to 200,000 views total. We just want to start to understand, analyze, and refine our process of creating content and be ahead of the game. Be at least a week ahead at all times, because if you fall behind, you get busy, this stuff's not going to happen. Key takeaways that you guys should remember: psychology drives engagement. So use those psychological triggers. Visuals will always beat just words and what is said. Demonstration is huge. Consistency is going to build trust. If you're not posting regularly, showing up regularly, that will hurt your performance in the algorithm, and it will hurt your trust with your audience. Think about value 80% of the time, 20% of the time is promotion, trying to get leads and get to the next thing. We really need to track and optimize based on the data that we're getting back. If we're not tracking anything except for views, we really have no idea what's going on and how we need to improve. So implement things that we talked about, and we're going to dive in now a lot deeper into tactical stuff, because that was like high level theory understanding. Cool. Anthony, anything before I go into profiles and start to?
No, as always, great insights, Dan. Yeah, we'll move right into the accounts and then answer some questions and wrap it up.
Cool. So we're gonna get a little tactical with talking about stuff and showing you guys some things here now. Let me see. All right. So first account, Claude. We get to meet briefly at the PGA show this year. Awesome guy, amazing instructor, and should have a lot more followers than 143. But this is the nature of what I see a lot of times. Like in the internet world, this rings true again and again and again, which is that the best or most talented won't always win if they don't understand how to position and market themselves online. And I think that's the feeling of a lot of coaches that I talk to, is that they're great at what they do. They just don't know how to put it out there and attract other people through social media. So the big things, one, we can optimize the bio. I won't get too much into that because, there's a previous video on that, and then stuff that you can reference to go change things. But the big thing, one, social media is going to reward consistency and recency. Last post was on April 15th. So that's one thing. Then February 4th before that. Then, same. What was this one? November 6th. So the most immediate thing would be produce content more regularly. Most platforms like to see this. Instagram for sure does. Or if you want to grow on the platform and continue to do so, then you need to be regularly and consistently posting. And so the simplest thing is just like, if we want more interaction, engagement, followers, views, we need to post 3 to 5 times a week. That'd be the easiest thing. And then from there, there's refinements that we can do on content. But honestly, that's the first step. I wouldn't tell you anything else, but pick a cadence of posting and post regularly. And that will by itself get you more views, more interaction, more engagement, more followers. Because we don't have any data to refine off of. We don't really know what will work for you because we haven't done enough of it. And so that's really that's the place I would start. Post more frequently. Set a cadence. Hey, I can commit to 3 days a week, whatever that is. And I'm just going to do that every single week. And then I will refine and get better from there. Let's go to another one. And I'm purposely limiting that advice there because there's not a lot to refine. There's no real feedback to be given because there's not much there. All right. So David, good amount of followers, but I can see view counts don't potentially align. So whenever I see this, that always makes me curious. where'd the followers come from and when did we garner most of the followers? Because it doesn't look like that happened recently with the view counts that we're getting. Secondarily, let's look at timing on some of these. Yep. Yeah. November 27th, 2024. Cool. So, I mean, reels are going to be big and posting consistently is going to be big. And I wouldn't even like, those would be my first 2 tasks for David is like optimize your bio based on stuff we talked about previously and get in a regular content creation process and just start posting. I do like that you just have your website and not a link tree. I think that's great. I would do a headshot of you, all those things. But honestly, that's what I would do there is start to regularly to post. That's the feedback I would give right away. And then once you did that, now we can refine. Now we can actually start to get in the process of changing the style of content and trying different things. But it starts with posting. Let's go next one here. All right. So one thing for me personally, I like to brand the account off of the instructor. So it's not terrible that it's Get Golf Lessons. Like we understand what that account is for. I always like to have a headshot of the instructor. That will always perform better from a trust perspective when people get to know you on social media. The styles of content. So you notice right away, I always click over to the reels because on Instagram specifically, reels are really the opportunity for growth for most coaches. You can do a decent job with carousels if you really understand how to structure them, but reels are the most powerful growth platform that we can have on Instagram specifically. And then, I mean, this is just like, we don't have a lot of golf content. So it's similar advice here, which is like, I'll get into some other stuff here really quickly to show you guys some examples of what this could look like. But right now it's just, hey, we need to post more golf content more consistently and optimize our profile. And just that alone will give you better growth, more views, more opportunities. But that's a simple metric I would start with. Let's go another one here. All right. So Steve, so a couple really quick, let's see, when were these? March 28th, Jan 17th. So more consistent posting. I just need to see a lot more golf, right? Like I need a lot more golf content. I needed a lot more consistent. I need 3 to 5 a week. Then we can work on formats. Every video should have captions. So captions are the words that appear on the screen over the video as stuff is happening, because 80 to 90% of content on Instagram is consumed with the sound off. I need visuals. I need text hook overlays, and I just need more consistent content. Right? It's kind of like a theme so far. The submissions is like optimize your profile and let's post more consistently, and then we can work on stuff. But until then, I'm not going to show you the highest performing content and hope that you can replicate that when you haven't even produced 3 posts a week for 90 days in a row. That would be my first advice, is just do that. All right, Nancy. So reels, I'm always going to be curious on reels. So I'm totally cool with sharing personal stuff like this and updates. Totally cool, even though like not a specific like golf tip type thing, but I totally get it in. I like that. Similar, right? We can optimize the bio a bit. We can go for more consistency of posting. March 6th, when was this? January 1. Yeah, it's the same, right? It's like if we want more views, we need to post more frequently. I was saying this to a client of mine earlier today, actually, which if you had a golfer that was wanting to get better in any aspect of their game, and they said to you like, hey coach, we've been working together the last 3 months, 6 months, whatever that time frame was, and I'm not sure why it's not getting better. Like it's not translating. I'm not shooting better scores or whatever. Like it's not better. It's not where I thought it would be. And then you ask them, okay, well, how many times have you practiced the thing that we said you needed to work on in the last 3 months? And they said, oh, well, I think maybe twice. You would probably come back to them and be like, hey, we have unrealistic expectations of this whole process because you're just not practicing the thing we said we were going to work on. And so that's what I think a lot of coaches are doing when it comes to social media is one, haphazardly posting with no plan. Two, they're not doing it frequently enough to actually get better at the skill of creating content. And then because of that, their expectations are out of alignment. It would be unreasonable to expect that if you never did something and didn't practice it, that you would be very good at it and that you would get great results from doing that thing, right? So I think it's taking a similar mindset, or like and the concept is like, don't think about the outcome right now. We have to focus on the process. Skill acquisition and development is doing high quality repetitions of the same thing with enough frequency to improve. And so that's what most coaches need to commit to. In every profile I've looked at so far, that's the biggest thing, is just commit to that. Like it's not saying I want to get X number of followers or X number of students. It's saying I'm committed to posting 60 times in the next 90 days and learning in the process of doing that, because there's a lot of skills that you got to learn to get good at creating content on the internet. I think, let me see, I'm not sure if we had any more. Yeah, Terry. It's the same, right? Like optimize the profile and post more frequently, use reels, right? No reels have been posted on the account, and that's a big one for growing. And it's just, I'm totally fine with sharing your life and sharing more behind the scenes and, you know, showing that to people. But 80% of the content should be golf, and specifically through the lens of like, if a follower saw this, it would help them get better in some aspect or some way. Just value-driven content that is produced regularly. So basically, as like a theme across all the profiles we just looked at, is the first thing you got to understand is there's no magic content formula that I can give you for where you're at right now to produce the result that you want, like in a short time frame, right? My advice would be, think about the things I went over in the presentation. But the simplest thing is you got to post more frequently, and you got to commit to doing that for the next 90 days. Prove that you can do that first. Then we can work on refining it. Then we can work on other formats. Then we can work on hooks and scripts and editing and all that kind of stuff. But show me for the next 90 days you can post 3 to 5 times a week. And once you do that, like just doing that, you will get better. You will improve. Your audience will grow. You'll get more views. But yeah, that's the first thing I would work on with all those profiles, is that.
Great. Dan, we've got 2 questions that just popped up in the chat. This one's from Jim Woods. If you have a logo brand or animated logo, would you incorporate it into your video? And if yes, where and how?
No, never. And I'll give context. So Instagram, and most of this is true for most of the social media platforms. This is a little bit different if you're talking about like long form content on YouTube and when you strategically would do that. Short form platforms, I would not put the logo on there, and I would not put that in the video. It will diminish the reach of your posts. Instagram has specifically come out and said that it will, and it does not do anything to add value. We think of it as like, you know, branding, but honestly, the biggest brand association will be your name on the account. So just the account name and it being yours, and then people getting value from the video and starting to associate the value with the name that is your account, not with your logo necessarily. At some point, branding campaigns make sense when you're like Nike, but we're not. Like, we just need to deliver value. It will hurt the performance of your video if you're inserting logos at any point. So I would not put them on them.
Great. Second question we've got from Kevin. Is it important to hashtag golf you're posting? So I think you're referring to, hashtags being maybe a thing of the past, or
Yeah, they don't really matter nowadays. Yeah, the quality of the video will stand alone and it will perform regardless of the hashtag. Instagram's largely gone away with their whole categorization focus using hashtags. And so while it can help to give Instagram a little bit of direction when it comes to like what the content is about, I wouldn't hyper focus on them. I don't think that they produce anything crazy from a results perspective for you. It's more important the quality of the video, the first 3 seconds, the hook, like the way that that is formatted and delivered. And if you do that and you don't put a single hashtag on your video, it can still perform amazingly. So while I still throw them on posts, it's kind of like a just because thing. It's not because like this is what's going to determine the success of my post.
Is that a generalization between all social media platforms, or does LinkedIn look at hashtags differently than Instagram look at hashtags?
They all do a little bit differently, but across the board, that is not something that I would focus heavily on.
Got it.
It's more so like most of them will take the content of the video and they will take the captions, like the words that are actually written inside of them, and then start to understand what that is about. And then their whole goal is to show that to someone who will want to see that content. They're not necessarily using hashtags to categorize and show people stuff. It's based on the content more than anything.
Good. Another question is from Claude. Could we hire theoretically someone to post for us on our social media?
You 100% can. You have to give them access to your account like an Instagram to be able to do that. You still have to produce the content because I want you to be in the content. There's two different styles. Like you could have a social media manager, if you want to label them as that, or like assistant, that would largely just be like in charge of, hey, you send them a backlog of content and then they're just managing the schedule and the posting and all that kind of stuff, and maybe some of the engagement. You could also have like a full-time kind of editor and social assistant manager type, where you're recording, sending them, they edit the whole thing, and then they post it on your behalf. Varying price points on what that would look like. They're 100%, feasible, viable. I honestly think those are great options for coaches if you can afford it. I think it's amazing to invest in that as soon as you can, so that you don't have to become a full-time content creator plus editor plus social media manager on top of what you're already doing. So if you can outsource that, I highly recommend looking into it.
Great. And if I may, Dan, just one final thing. I was putting some notes down from what you were discussing, and one of the things that spoke out to me was the variability in content, right? I mean, for most of these folks in V1, you talked about using comparison, using text over video or telestration or pro swings. I mean, these are tools that we already have in V1 that you're kind of sitting on a treasure trove in regards to content. Now, if your students are open to you sharing that content, I think it'd be really beneficial. So yeah, it just kind of spoke out to me in regards to a lot of people who are using our product daily, and they're kind of building a library of things that they can optimize for social media. And we actually have share to social media as a tool within V1 as well too. So just one thing I want to put out there as we kind of wrap up here. One last question, just sent in here. Jeff Henry, what editing tools are you using for Reels?
Yeah, I think the simplest for most would be CapCut. Instagram just released their Edits app, so you could use that. Simple editing on your phone, and I like a platform called Descript because it's it'll transcribe the video, and then it's a transcription-based editing platform, which is sometimes easier if you're not a video editor, which I know most coaches are not. So those three are ones to look into.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Dan. Any parting words before we head out of here?
Yeah, I would say that social media and social media content is a skill just like any other. And so deciding to commit to the process and just get better at it every single day and build for the long term, not the immediate success, and trying to just like go viral tomorrow will be your best perspective and outlook on it. is that it's just something that you build and get better at and improve on 1% every day over time. And if you do that and commit, like everyone that you see with a large audience that's like popular online today that has whatever 1 million subscribers on XYZ channel, they're there because 10 years ago they committed to the process when they sucked at it and just kept going. And so that would be the biggest thing, is just start and commit to the process.
Well said. Well, thanks everybody. Join us next month as we have another iteration of the webinar. Have a good rest of your day. Thanks.